I am Parthiban. I work for Ogilvy. So I did my internship in 2007. I came to Ogilvy Bangalore, spent 3 years there. Then I went out, and in 2019 I came back to Ogilvy again. So it's like home, you go out, you try out something, and then you keep coming back.
Your bosses are shouting at you. I've heard abusive languages being used. How common do you think that is?
Even when I have made the biggest mistakes, they basically motivated me and they kept me going. And once the team feels they are empowered, and once they feel a certain sense of liberty that they can go out and explore more and more, miracles happen.
Hi Parthiban, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's start by getting a quick introduction about you for our audience and for them to learn more about you.
Sure, Anupreet. Thanks for having me here today. It's indeed my pleasure to be here, for giving me an opportunity to share my experiences. So I am Parthiban. I work for Ogilvy. I am a senior vice president at Ogilvy, and I'm part of the Ogilvy One team here. So in my current role, I take care of the Martech practice. I am in charge of client relations and alliances and partnerships for Ogilvy One. So that's very briefly about me.
Thank you so much. I always was fascinated by the kind of career that you've had. I think I would, for lack of better words, call it very random in its own way, right? I would love to know how planned that was, and if it wasn't, it would have a lot of learning for someone young watching this podcast to figure out, how do you get to an SVP position at Ogilvy without maybe a proper plan towards it, right? So would love to know more about that journey.
I'm glad that you had noticed the randomness, in my career. So the way I got into advertising itself, was slightly random. Because I was very good with science when I was in school. Science came very naturally to me. So hence my parents wanted me to become a doctor or perhaps an engineer. Okay, the typical middle class, Chennai family dream of making their son a doctor or an engineer. And that was, it came with an added point saying they had met Swamiji. And he said, after looking at my horoscope, that if I pursued medicine, I'll be a great doctor.
Oh, wow.
So that actually kind of put me off, saying, why should a Swamiji and my horoscope decide, my future?
Yeah.
So I went and enrolled myself into the commerce stream in my 11th. Okay. And thankfully, my parents let me be. And they said, we think this is the right thing for you. But if you believe something else, you can chase and you can achieve there, then go ahead. I'm really thankful to my parents for that. Then once I got into the commerce stream, my 11th and 12th is where I got the first glimpse of what advertising was. We had a very small module called advertising, and it deeply impacted me. And I wanted to be in advertising. And then I did my BCom, did my post-graduation in marketing, and I did my internship with Ogilvy. Right? So Ogilvy has actually been my home. So I did my internship. In 2007, I came to Ogilvy Bangalore, spent 3 years there. Then I went out, and in 2019, I came back to Ogilvy again. So it's like home, you go out, you try out something, and then you keep coming back. So that's how I basically got into advertising. In fact, the days when I was giving my interviews, I had walked into every single agency in Chennai. Wow. Big, small, known, unknown, every single agency in Chennai I walked into. And one of the guys at one small agency, he mentioned that I would be better off in a sales role than in an agency role. So I went and gave interview at Cadbury's. We call it Mondelez now, but I went and gave interview at Cadbury's. I got selected as a sales officer. I got posted in Kerala. It was a big role, good money. But in flat 1 month, I tried it out. I realized sales is not for me. Advertising is where I want to be. So I came back into advertising, leaving a good paying job. So that's how I came into advertising. And from there on, I have not really carried the stress of planning out every step in my, future endeavor. I've just embraced what's come to me and what's given to me. For example, I was in mainline for some time. And there was a mentor who I had at Ogilvy Chennai. His name is Rahul. he suggested that direct marketing was the next big wave. And he recommended, if I could try out direct marketing. So I came into direct marketing, and direct marketing became digital marketing. And I think I would have easily been one of those first few people to try out an email marketing, a full-fledged email marketing campaign with all this fancy dashboards and everything, which was just really fancy back in the day. This was like 2003, 2004, 5 types. So, and whatever came my way, I'm really lucky, because whatever came my way came really good. And whoever, took me in, they gave me a really good, start from there. And they really nurtured me in that particular role. So, without the burden of too much planning, I've just enjoyed my journey, because I believe the journey needs to be enjoyed more than the destination. And so I've been a happy traveler in this advertising journey. So that's how I basically landed up here.
Beautiful. And you mentioned you met a lot of people in your journey. So the journey itself, right, now has led to a point where you have a team. Anything in your leadership style that you think stands out or works out for you that others can learn from? And anything about your team that you'd like to share? How did that experience help you become a better leader?
Of course. So 2 things on that, Anupreet. One, I've been mentored by really great leaders, people who have been fantastic leaders. Even when I have made the biggest mistakes, they basically motivated me and they kept me going, right? I was never reprimanded for any of my mistakes. In fact, a lot of my bosses have allowed me to make mistakes, just that I can make any mistake only once, right? I can't repeat a mistake. So I can tell you numerous stories where my leaders have taken special care and they have really mentored me into what I am.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing the same with my team, right? Yeah. I'm doing what my mentors and what my leaders did to me. I'm just doing that for my team. And also this belief that advertising is a people's business, right? It's the people who make, advertising the lovely place it is. So I try to focus more on the team that I have.
Yeah.
And once the team feels they are taken care of, and once the team feels they are empowered, and once they feel a certain sense of liberty that they can go out and explore more and more, miracles happen, right? So whether it's the team that I had built at HCL Technologies, we had a huge team, and the team basically took care of everything from there on. Or the team that I had built in my previous office, which is MR McCann. I was the head of branch for MR McCann. We had built a beautiful team which did miracles. I'll give you an example. On one particular week, we were supposed to make 5 pitches in 5 days. Monday to Friday, we were to make 5 pitches. So I was really not sure if the team can pull it off. But the team came to me and they said, listen, all the groundwork is already done. We just need to put things together. We'll stay up 5 nights and we can build this. So don't say no to any of the pitches. We will go ahead and pitch.
Wow.
And we actually managed to pitch to 5 different clients from Monday to Friday. And out of the 5 pitches, we managed to win 3.
Wow.
So we gave up 1 and we finally converted 2. So that's the kind of miracles that the team can pull off. And I'm personally proud of building such teams. So, yeah.
That's refreshing, I would say, because I think the broader notion about agencies at large is that it's very, very stressful. It is toxic to some extent. For at least some teams I've kind of witnessed as an outsider, where your bosses are shouting at you. Your boss, I've heard abusive, languages being used, which is new to someone who comes from a tech industry, because you can't expect that in, a tech. You can't expect that in tech side of things. Firstly, how common do you think that is, or is that just an external point of view that actually does not really happen?
So I've seen both worlds, Anupreet. I've been in a tech company and I've been there for some 6.5 years. And I've been in advertising for a very long time. At least in a place like Ogilvy, I can tell you with confidence, there is no toxicity that exists in a place like Ogilvy.
Yeah.
Ogilvy is a very open place, and thanks to my leaders, Ogilvy is not a place where you will find any such toxic culture at all. At least I have never come through something like that.
Yeah.
I have never heard of any stories
Yeah.
from my colleagues and peers. So Ogilvy, I think, largely is a place where you are allowed to enjoy work. You are allowed to do what you think is right.
Yeah.
Okay. That liberty and the trust that your leaders have in you
Yeah.
is why Ogilvy today is one of the greatest agencies.
Yeah. And I
in
agree.
India.
I've met the classiest people in Ogilvy.
Yes.
Honestly, like people
Yes.
who have take a lot of pride in what they do and do it with class and lead with class.
Absolutely.
Yeah. My question was more around the broader industry ecosystem. Like I would say that we're all a part of.
See, at an industry level, perhaps it exists in a few corners, Anupreet. Yeah. But my personal experience, after having worked with the likes of JWT, McCann, and now Ogilvy, and predominantly I've spent some 8 years with Ogilvy, right? I've been lucky enough not to come across something like that.
Nice.
Yeah. And again, I will credit my leaders and my mentors for building a culture like that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I have tried to replicate over the years.
Beautiful. Very cool. And what is the one that you could actually pull off and you're very proud of the way that campaign shaped up?
Again, quite a few campaigns I could talk of. But yeah, there's one campaign which I had done in my very early days. I think I was just an executive that time. I was an account executive that time. So I was working on the Ford account when I was at JWT. And there was this brand of car called Ford Fusion, which I personally love. But for some reason, it wasn't a big selling car in the India market. And we always wondered, such a beautiful car, very spacious car, very powerful engine. But for, I don't know what reason, it wasn't, preferred by the customers in India market. So there was this research report, that came to us. And there was a passing remark, a point which said, pet owners, especially dog owners, love the Ford Fusion because it's very easy and convenient to take their dogs out, and they felt their dogs also love the Ford Fusion. And that was a very interesting point, which stood out in the entire report. And we basically wanted to try out something. So what I did, I contacted the Hyderabad Canine Club because a dog show was around the corner. We contacted the Hyderabad Canine Club and we requested them to allow us to put up a test drive booth there for Ford Fusion specifically. They immediately agreed. And what they wanted in return was a full page color ad in their magazine, which costed 10,000 rupees, which was nothing compared to the kind of other media channels that you had back then.
Correct.
So we immediately agreed, and they indeed let us put a test drive booth there. And the number of test drives that happened and the final number of sales, it was around 150 cars that we were able to sell through that one campaign. So personally, it was a big milestone for me.
Wow.
I consider it a big achievement.
Yeah.
May not be that big today, but when I was just an account executive, pulling out an insight like that and converting that into a meaningful campaign was a big thing for me back then.
Very cool. And did they continue the association of pet owners with the car for the coming quarters, and did that end up having like a major impact on the subsequent quarters as well?
Yes, I think they did that through their dealerships directly. But I also think, I might be wrong, I also think the Ford Fusion was discontinued a year later. Because they were concentrating on Fiesta and the other models. So if my memory is right, I think the subsequent year the Fusion was also discontinued.
Got it. Tell me more about the whole Martech journey that you're on with your clients. I think you lead that initiatives for Ogilvy India. where you're helping brands onboard and implement the Martech solutions out there, and then also make the most out of them, right? So implementing stuff like Salesforce, which is fairly complex, I believe, and then helping them capture the right data points and then use them in the subsequent campaigns. So maybe the performance marketing side of things must be positively impacted with those initiatives. If you can share more about about that, because I think Ogilvy, again, with my limited understanding, is known mostly for their creative work. But I was pleasantly surprised to know that a lot of performance marketing optimizations and Martech implementations are also driven through Ogilvy. Would love to know more about that.
Yes, so that part of the team which takes care of Martech and related things, we are called the Ogilvy One team. It's a relatively new team which got launched recently. You might have seen that on news. So yes, my primary passion was actually around creative tech, but you have very strong people like Rajneesh, who does some wonderful things today. And subsequently, I was offered this role by our CEO, my then reporting manager, and my HR head, who said, since you have a passion for technology, remember I said I was very well versed with science, maybe that effect, and I genuinely have a liking for tech and basically how things work and all that, right? So when my then manager called me and said, there is a Martech opening out of Bombay, do you want to consider it? I immediately wanted to give it a shot because tech and Martech sounded interesting. And I strongly believe Martech could basically amplify the reach of what you're trying to tell in the market, right? So I lapped up that role. And at present, like you rightly said, we are working with the likes of Adobe and Salesforce to help clients adopt Martech platforms. We help implement, we help them run and operate these platforms. Because once we gather data, through the help of the data, there are hazard things that you can do. You can do hyper-personalization, you can do hyper-personalization at scale, right? Where you're talking to every customer as an individual customer, right? You are no more doing mass campaigns, right? But for that to happen, you need a strong tech layer to come in and help clients do that, right? So that's the part that we do now. We consult clients on what kind of Martech platforms they need to adopt. How do you actually go out implementing these Martech platforms for them? And we also help, working with them for the run and operate part as well. So there are a few live campaigns, that are happening there. It's still in pipeline. So maybe in our next chat, we'll be able to talk in detail about it.
That's great. Even we are launching a developer platform which will, decouple all the foundational models that we've built for companies like yours and developers and tech enthusiasts to explore in different shapes and forms, not just campaigns, but to build products on top of. So great that you're part of a team that is supporting the use of technology in campaigns.
No, it's actually fascinating. Traditionally you look at technology and creativity as two different things, right? But miracles happen when they come together, right? How technology enables creativity and how creativity can leverage technology and do wonderful things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you do when you're not working?
Okay, when I am not working, I prefer to drive. I love my car.
You don't have a choice in Bangalore. You're always driving if you're not working.
Actually, even that I don't mind. As long as I'm in my car, I actually don't mind the traffic in Bangalore. Like I told you, I had worked on the Ford business many years back.
Yeah.
And from then, I have started loving Ford cars.
Oh, wow.
So I have a Ford Endeavor. This is my second Endeavor.
Wow.
And I love my car. So when I'm not working, one thing I really love doing is driving. The second thing is I love to read a lot. And because now I'm in a role which is around Martech, and I'm very new to this role,
Yeah.
I try to read a lot about the latest developments just to keep myself abreast.
Yeah.
So that's the second thing that I do. And that's all the time that I have. And yeah, with family, kids, you run out of time pretty fast.
Yeah, completely relate with that. No, thank you so much, Parthiban, for spending time with us. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It was very refreshing for me. I think learning your perspective on how to deal with failures, how to build very strong, culturally strong teams, how to have so much love for your team, and then the team gives you that love back, and how
Yes.
that feels. And the successful campaigns that you're very proud of. In fact, even after 20 years of, let's say, implementing those campaigns, is it's beautiful to see. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Really appreciate you coming all the way to talk to me today.
Thank you, Anupreet. Thanks for the opportunity once again. Really look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Parthiban.
Thank you.